What's up, legends, and welcome back to my Unmatched Strategy Guide series. Today we're doing something very different. We are starting on the map guides, but probably not in the way that most of you would expect. For a little bit of background, people have been asking me to analyze the maps for months, if not year singular at this point, and that is a project that I have recently started undertaking with some help from other people in the community. And before we get into the more general map guides that are probably going to be very long videos coming out probably by the end of June, beginning of July, I want to say, I'm going to be doing a kind of more character-focused map guide on Bullseye, who is my favorite character in the game right now and has a lot of interesting implications with the current maps in the game. So I thought, hey, I'm going to analyze this character's map guides just because it's something I'm very interested in, and it's kind of a nice segue into talking about maps, which can be a very dense subject, a lot of space counting, and like I said, I'm getting help, so fortunately that's not going to be just a huge undertaking I'm doing by myself. So this is my 21st strategy guide, and it is about Bullseye and the maps he is on. The other name for this strategy guide would be the Counting to 5 strategy guide, because as you'll see, being able to count to 5 is a skill that all Bullseye players need to have. So just right now, whip out your hand and make sure you know how to count to 5, because going forward, I'm going to assume that everyone knows how to count to 5. And that's because Bullseye's ability says Bullseye can attack from up to 5 spaces away, ignoring zones. So he has one of the largest, he has the largest attack range in the entire game right now. 5 spaces is a lot, and certainly on tighter maps, you will have spaces where you can hit every other space on the board, meaning no matter what your opponent does, unless they're Electra and they die, or they're IM and they vanish, you will be able to attack them on your turn. And for someone like Bullseye who wants to be aggressive and attack a bunch, win a bunch of combats, deal a bunch of damage, kill the enemy very quickly, them not having escape is perfect for you. So as Bullseye, you need to have a really good understanding of what map you're playing on, where you have to position, and just how to be as big of a nuisance for your opponent as you can be, which is what Bullseye is all about. And positioning is something that it makes good players great. Positioning is super important, but it's a very subtle part of the game. And knowing how to position yourself as Bullseye is super important, because yes, while there are spots on most of these maps where you can hit every other space, you don't necessarily need to camp them. You kind of just need to lock your opponent in one side of the board where you'll be guaranteed to hit them. And on certain maps, if they're far enough away from you, sure, go to that spot and camp it, and they'll probably have to boost up to hit you if they want to attack you, or they'll just futilely run away and not be able to escape, which is an interesting problem Bullseye faces for your opponent. Are they going to run away, and then you'll just have an easy time chasing them down, because you can attack them from 5 spaces away, you don't even have to be next to them or in the same zone? Or do they just say, screw it, if he's going to attack me, he attacks me, and they're just going to run up and end their turn next to you, so that if you double attack them, they'll be able to attack you next turn. There's a lot of interesting positioning and combat interactions that happen from Bullseye, in the fact that he can attack from so far away. So, like I said, you don't necessarily need to camp the spots, you just need to be annoying for your opponent. And even on the worst maps for Bullseye, I say worst in air quotes because there are no bad maps for him, you'll only not be able to hit like 2 or 3 spaces at most from the most ideal spot. So I actually think going first is more important for Bullseye, to get your aggression started early and maybe catch your opponent with a bad starting hand. I think going first is slightly more important for him because the maps are all like decently good for him. So it's not like map position is super important for him. I actually think position pick is better. And if you have map and position pick together, then you'll have just such a great time at the beginning of the game. And the whole point of this video is to kind of analyze which maps are best for Bullseye and how he should play on all of them. So without further ado, let's just start looking at some maps. Now, we're doing this video a little different. I've made my mouse cursor huge so that it's very easy to see which spaces I'm referring to on the maps. So starting with Sarpedon, going first, you can attack player 2 because they are exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away. And normally I see Sarpedon as a good anti-range map because while these tri-zone spaces exist, there are a bunch of hard cutoffs on this map, such as the green, blue, and the red zones, that make playing against ranged characters on this map it's a little bit more easy than it seems, because if Medusa's camping these spots, I mean, you just hide out in the red, you can probably maneuver and attack her on your turn, and if she wants to attack you, she'll probably have to start aggressing you and move into the red zone, and then you can just hop back out. And it's a nice little game of, I want to say Pop Goes the Weasel or Whack-A-Mole, but I don't even know if those make sense. So basically, this is normally like an insidiously good map for melee characters against ranged characters, except Bullseye doesn't have that problem because if he's chilling in these zones, he can always attack the red, which is super nice for him. But I think the most ideal spot on this map for Bullseye is here on this topmost bridge, simply because you don't have an unlimited range spot. There is no like one single spot on this board where you can hit every other space. So I think this is the most ideal spot because the only two spots you can't hit are this X, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away, and this X, which is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away. Now, like I was saying earlier, you don't need to camp this spot because then your opponent can just hide in one of those corners. What you can do is if they're on like the land side of the map, you can just move like a little bit closer to this side, maybe like here or there, and you'll still be able to hit everything on this side of the board. Likewise for this, if they're on the boat, you can just stand here and you can hit everywhere on the boat. So you kind of want to stay close to the center, and just whatever side of the map your opponent is on, you just slightly shift back and forth to that side. It'll be a little different if they are just going like full up in your business and they're just ending their turn next to you. Then you might have to make a little bit more tactical decisions based on like what block cards you have available, or if you even want them to be able to attack you. But your opponent does have some areas of the board to run away to based on your positioning, because this is a very long map. Like if you're all the way on the boat in the red zone, you probably won't be able to attack the green or blue zones. So I would say stick to this kind of like central loop and just shift based on where your opponent is. This is a decent map for Bullseye. Going first, you can attack right away, and like you can even chill in this bottom pink space and attack this tri-zone space, even though it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces away, because you still have the normal ranged combat restrictions, or I should say limitations or abilities. You're not capped out at only attacking 5 spaces away. You can attack more if the normal zone and range rules would allow. So this is a pretty decent map, but I think there are better ones. The next map is Marmoreal. Now, going first, you cannot attack the enemy hero with your first action on your first turn, which is, I think, like the most ideal thing Bullseye could do. You just mulligan for the scheme and a good attack, and if you can attack right away, you do so. Hopefully you win the combat, and then you draw a bunch of cards with your scheme, and you're off to the races. Your opponent is already at a huge disadvantage in both cards, tempo, and life. However, on Marmoreal, you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away in both directions on these loops. So you can't attack right away. You could just maneuver one space and then attack, but you can't do it on your first action, which isn't the end of the world. It's just slightly unideal if you're trying to catch your opponent off guard, or maybe just with a bad shuffle. The ultimate spot, or infinite range spot on this map, is actually here in the middle of this zone. Marmoreal is normally pretty good for ranged characters because the blue and the green just encapsulate so much of the map. But on this map here, in the middle of the field, you can hit everywhere. Now you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and hit this pink space over here. go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit this purple space, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hit that purple space. Those are like the three most suspect spaces. And you might be saying, well, how can you hit the top of the tower? They're 6 spaces away. You're still in the blue and green zones from this field, so you can actually attack there. You can attack the bottom over here. You can attack the white up here. So if you're in this space, you can hit everywhere on the map. So I think all maps where you can hit every space from a particular space are just automatically, that's like a really high floor to have for Bullseye, because you can just go to that spot, and regardless of what your opponent does, you can always attack them multiple times on your turn even. So the restriction that you can't first action, first turn attack them on this map right away, I don't think is like outweighs the goodness that having this spot does. So I think Marmoreal is probably a great Bullseye map. Definitely better than Sarpedon, I think. The next map is Sherwood, which is also normally a really good ranged map just because of these middle tri-zone spaces. Characters like Medusa and Robin Hood, I think, are really good on this map, especially because it's very corridor-like, so you can block enemy paths with sidekicks, and like Medusa's ability is just disgusting on this map. However, it's not super great for Bullseye because this loop over here and this loop over here are decently big enough so that Bullseye actually can't hit everywhere on the map from the central positioning, which it might look like at first. This space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away, and both of these spaces are also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away. Now this is what I was talking about like on Sarpedon. If your opponent is on either side of the map, you don't necessarily have to camp this space. You can kind of just shift closer to whatever side they're on. And then if they move away, let's say they maneuver boost and go back here, you just shift back this way. This loop, however, is problematic because it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spaces, which means like the math is like there's 6 spaces on every side, which is not the right number for you. If it was 10 spaces, that would be good because no matter what side they were on, they would be able to run away from Bullseye. But this loop is definitely problematic for him because there's always like a safe space opposite where he is in this loop. So for example, if Bullseye is here, the enemy can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here, and you won't be able to attack it. So this is definitely like probably one of the worst areas in the game for Bullseye, which is why I don't think this map is super great for him, despite it normally being good for ranged characters. The plus side is you can attack the second player going first action, because they're only 4 spaces apart. And you could even like play for my next trick, move 1 space up here and kind of like lock them out of this area of the map, at least to start with, and make them probably maneuver boost on their first turn all the way over to the right side if they want to start kind of cheesing you with this loop. But everywhere else on the map, probably decent, except for, of course, this spot from here, but then you just move 1 space and then you can get it. So this is probably the worst map we've looked at so far. The next map is Yukon. This is also another problematic map because of this big loop, the Yukon death loop, as it is called. It is, I believe, 14 spaces long, but let's just double count that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15? I think that's, let's count the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, so it's 15. I hope everyone at home is enjoying me count. A lot of counting in this video. So the Sherwood loop was 12 spaces, I believe. This is 3 longer than that. So basically, if your opponent is running away from you in the loop, you will have to maneuver in order to catch them. You can't always hit everywhere in the loop, which is problematic for you. You can sit here, which is good for a number of reasons. One, you're in this tri-zone space, which gives you access to this gray zone, which means even though you can only hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with your ability, just like on Marmoreal, because these spaces are in your zone, despite them being further away than 5 spaces, you can still hit them. And then you, of course, can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the other direction, and then there are 2 safe spaces from this position, and you can hit everywhere on this side as well. But like Sherwood, if there's an area of the board that's good for your opponent, they'll probably chill there the whole game. The good news is, if your opponent is running away from you in the loop, they are not attacking you, which means they're not progressing their win condition, which is chew through your measly defenses and squishy health and no healing. If they're running away from you, forcing you to maneuver and then attack them, they're not actively killing you, which is good for you. It just started raining very heavily, so if you can hear that in the background, I'm sorry. Also, my air conditioner is going, so there might be a little bit of white noise in the background, but hopefully it's nice and soothing. You can attack first action, first turn, because the player 2 spot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away, although they could hide their sidekicks behind them if they didn't want you to access them first turn. So overall, this is kind of another normally good for ranged character map, but I don't think either map from the Bigfoot or Robin Hood set is particularly excellent for Bullseye. Raptor Paddock. This, as you can see, there are a lot of spots where you can hit every space on the map, and you can attack first action, first turn. So this is probably one of his best maps. Let's break it down a little bit more. The second player spot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away, so going first, you can attack them first action. And something to note is that your ability ignores the pit, because the pit, the one-way arrows, are only for movement. So while you can't move out of the pit through the arrows, your ability will still work. So if you are in the deepest, darkest depths of the pit and your enemy is here, they're still only 1, 2, 3 spaces away from you, and you can attack them. So all of these spots, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 spots on this map. That is probably just under half the spots total are what you can attack from. And the biggest normal loop in this game is around the pit, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. So what that means is normally on this map, my opponents, when I'm Bullseye and I'm in one of these spots, my opponents will just double maneuver and then next to me. And because of this loop, if you double maneuver away, you'll be 4 spaces away from them in either direction, which isn't great, because that means that move 2 melee characters can still catch up to you with a double maneuver without a boost, because you are only move 2 if you remember. But again, if they're just double maneuvering, or if they're maneuver boosting in order to hit you, they're progressing their win condition very slowly. But it is easy to catch Bullseye on this map because it's so small, but that also works in your favor because you can attack from anywhere. Yeah, this is a decently good map for Bullseye, if not one of his best. SoHo. SoHo is normally a huge map. It's got a lot of corridors, and it can kind of have some weird zoning cutoffs, but it's actually a pretty good Bullseye map. Let's talk about why. Well, first, you can't attack the enemy hero first action, first turn, because the player 2 spot is 6 spaces away. It's actually very far away. And there is a spot where Bullseye can't hit everywhere on the map. Well, I should say there are no spots where Bullseye can hit everywhere on the map. I think this is the most ideal one because you have access to most of this rooftop loop while also being able to hit the back corners, because they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away. So I think here is the best spot. But again, this is kind of like Sherwood or Sarpedon, where if your opponent is back here on this row of buildings, you just shift forward and then you can hit them, make them boost away. And if they're on the loop, you can just drop down to one of these 2 spaces. And from here, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit the X, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hit next to the X. So just by moving down 1 space, you can hit everywhere in this loop. And if they run back up here, you just shift over here and make them waste resources boosting around to avoid you. And like I said, you're often fine with that because that means they're not progressing their win condition. So this doesn't seem like the best Bullseye map because you can't attack them immediately and you can't attack every space. There's no infinite range space, but I think it's a lot better than it appears. I don't have a lot of experience as Bullseye on this map though, compared to some other maps like Raptor Paddock, but I think it's a sleeper pick, decent Bullseye map. The next is Baskerville. So I am not a fan of Bullseye on this map, but we'll talk about why in a couple minutes. So starting off, you can actually attack the second player going first because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away. Now note, you cannot attack through secret passages. They are adjacent to each other only for the purposes of moving, which means this is actually like a very big map. It doesn't really look like it, but like this central loop here is pretty big, ignoring the secret passages. There's kind of, I think this secret passage is very far away from these two. This passage, of course, is only 3 spaces away, and like these passages are far away from each other. What I mean is, like, if your opponent is just chilling on a secret passage the whole time, let's say you're on this green one, they'll just go to this secret passage because you can't hit them. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if they're on this passage, they're safe while you're here. So you'll maneuver and you'll probably go here, and then you can hit them. But then they'll go over here, and they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away in either direction. So then you'll go back here to hit them, and then they'll just teleport over here. So there's like a lot of hopping around that makes it really hard for you to constantly double attack them. I think the most ideal spot is this one because you hit everything but 2, and you kind of can force your opponent to go off a secret passage. But then, since you're not on a secret passage, if they're on this spot, they can just go 1, 2 and be next to you without having to boost and attack you. So I think good opponents will make very good use of the secret passages and make it really hard to hit you. And I think like it adds to your slipperiness because you are also so mobile as well. And basically, if they're on a secret passage, you'll be able to go to a different secret passage to hit them. But it helps them run away a lot easier. And without sidekicks that you have to control them, I think that's even more problematic against someone who might as well. For instance, if you're playing against Sinbad and you're on this green secret passage, Sinbad's in the top left, the porter's in the bottom right, what are you going to do to hit Sinbad? Because you can't hit him from here, you can't portal to here because the porter's blocking, so you're probably going to have to maneuver off it, and then that leaves you susceptible to Sinbad being able to warp in without having to boost. So this, I think, is a decently problematic Bullseye map. The next map is the Bronze. So starting off, you cannot first action, first turn attack because the player 2 spot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away. But, I should say, and you can't even, there's no ultimate space, there's no infinite range space because I think this is the most ideal spot. And from here, you can't attack player 3 because it's 6 spaces away. That being said, there will be like a dance you do with your opponent where if they're chilling here, you chill here, you move 1 space so you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and attack them, and then they'll just like move away on their turn, and then you'll move back and be able to hit them. And so this map has like a decently big loop in that regard because if you go here, they'll go here, and now you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces away. In addition, you don't really get any like Sarpedon zoning help because this map does have some like big zones. Like this zone is decently long, this zone is decently long, and there's like a bunch of the inside the club is just like a mess. But I don't think it's like the pink zone on Sarpedon where you can attack in the same zone from 7 spaces away just because of all the hard cutoffs and like general confinement this map has. I don't know if that made sense, but So ultimately, this is an alright Bullseye map. There's only one spot, so if you're here and they have like a hero and a sidekick, you'll be able to attack something. Maybe you attack the sidekick that's chilling here, and you play, for my next trick, move one space, and then you can attack their hero chilling in the player 3 spot, but like, you only have 3 copies of for my next trick. I guess you also have arrogant but effective, but that doesn't give you an action, so it's slightly less good. So overall, like, not the best Bullseye map, I think. Sunnydale High. I will also say this. People say the Buffy maps are like the best maps in the game. Like, they're probably the best thing about the Buffy set. I'm going to be honest, I really don't see the hype. I find them like subtly annoying, I guess. I don't know how to explain that. Just like, if I had the choice between playing on a Buffy map or playing on another map, I'd probably just play on another map. Because I think it's just more exciting, and I guess there are no map features in there. They're generally balanced, but like, I don't know. That's just my take. You can attack. First action, first turn, going first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces away is player 2. They could tuck some sidekicks behind here. And the zoning on this map is, like, I think pretty good for going against ranged fighters, because if Medusa's chilling on this tri-zone spot, I mean, you just chill out here in the red, and you can still attack her, and she can't ping you or anything like that. And there is an ultimate spot right here at the kind of the entrance to the school, top of the staircase, where you can attack everything. Because you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can get to the back of the library and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and also hit here. You can loop around here. So this is a decent Bullseye map. I haven't actually played on it super extensively, just because, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Buffy maps, just out of personal spite, I guess. But having an ultimate spot certainly helps. Hanging Gardens. This is a super fun map to play Bullseye on. Going first, you can attack player 2, which is really nice. They're exactly 5 spaces away. And there are 2 spots where you can have infinite range and attack everything else. It looks like you would want to chill on just on top of this high ground to be able to attack everything. But if you're on this high ground, you can't attack this pink corner. It's too far away. So if you chill here, maybe, I don't know how to set up a scenario, but like, if your opponent is here and you're like, okay, I'll chill on top of this high ground so that if you want to attack me, I'll attack you back with +1, which is just super good for Bullseye to have. They can just run to the corner, and now you're like, oh shoot, I'll have to maneuver first. So these spots, you can hit every space on the board, but just remember, you're on the low ground from this spot. So like, if you attack Bloody Mary and she has Trick of the Light and warps adjacent to you, or they have some other movement effect, or they maneuver boost in on their turn to get the high ground on you, that attack is probably going to hurt, because the highest you can value block for is 3. So just keep that in mind. Again, you can kind of shift, though. If your opponent is on this dark green side of the board, I think you can chill here and still hit everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, if they're on the right side of the board, sure, claim this high ground spot. But if they're on the left in this pink zone, probably just go here. And if they're in this corner, they'd have to boost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's probably a 3 value boost for a move 3 character, which is probably a good card, and most 2 move characters probably can't reach that spot. So yeah, just be in mind of the shift you have to take on this map, and if you can be in a better defensive position for not getting high grounded, like if your enemy is on the right side of the board, I would take it. So overall, I think this is a really good map for Bullseye. The next map is the Raft. This is another like kind of long map. You can't attack them first action, first turn, because this player 2 is actually 8 spaces away, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So even if you maneuver on your first action, they're still 6 spaces away. So you can't really be super aggressive on this map. But I think the schemes and the versatile item tokens really help you, because just having extra value on your attacks or blocks is really good for obvious reasons. It helps you win combat more and helps you take less damage on defense. And I think these schemes are actually really good for Bullseye. He can use Electrified Floor if your opponent dumps all their harpies in the same zone as you, and it's just an easy way to get those annoying body blockers out. The secret documents, which is normally just a trash scheme, discard your hand, draw 3 cards. That's actually really good for Bullseye if he is playing really aggressive, gets to a low hand count, and you can just dump something stupid like the immediately discard effect or like a ricochet or something like that you're not going to need, and just refuel your hand. It's really good in that regard. And your opponent, more often than not, is probably not even going to want to use it themselves, so you'll have no competition for getting that if you ever. So you essentially have 3 study the target schemes on this map, which is really nice. And of course, the other scheme is security camera. Look at your opponent's hand, draw a card, which is just, hand knowledge is super important for Bullseye, a character that really wants to know if his opponent has feints or not, because then his World's Greatest Assassin highway robbery type card is just really powerful when it's not canceled. And I've actually won a game. I was playing against Hat Chowder's Yananga on this map. Yeah, I'm going to expose you, bud. And I won the game by attacking him with an arrogant but effective. So I won the combat, regardless of what he blocked with. And he was at 5 health, no archers. So I attacked him with a World's Greatest Assassin with a +1 token for exact lethal, ignoring his value. That was just, that was a super, super good turn for me. So just things like that, I think, really help Bullseye on this map. So, and of course, there are 5 ultimate spaces, because this center circle gray zone area can actually give you access to a lot of the nooks and crannies in the corner on the perimeter of this map. So I think, despite being super far away at the beginning of the game, the item tokens, the schemes, the versatiles, and having a plethora of spaces where you can hit everything with your unlimited range makes this map like one of the best Bullseye maps. The other Marvel map, this is actually, I guess, like his home field advantage, is Hell's Kitchen. This starting spot is 6 spaces away, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, just like a single maneuver and you can hit it. Not the best, I guess, but there's another like central circle area in this traffic circle outside of Fisk Tower, where there's a bunch of spots where you can hit everywhere else on the board, which is super nice. Having the versatile tokens be a 1-2-2 split instead of the Raft's 1-2-1 split, there's 2 value versatiles, helps even more because you can value block better and you can add extra oomph to your attacks. The schemes on this map are heal 2 health, draw card, really good for Bullseye, who normally doesn't have healing and has his main liability is his health and poor defenses, so just healing 2 while also drawing a card is just really nice for him. He loves that scheme. The battle-hardened payphone, where you get to add a card to your hand from your discard pile, that's really good, because imagine Bullseye with 3 study the target schemes. It's just filthy. 3 World's Greatest Assassins. It's really nice. I think you want to go there and just use it on something before your opponent can get a feint back, because that's probably how they'll win the game, just getting an extra cancel. You want to avoid that as much as possible. And the third scheme token is the map. That lets you attack anywhere else on the board. Kind of useless for Bullseye for obvious reasons. If you're using it in this space, I guess it would be helpful to attack someone on the right side of the board and vice versa. If you're using it in this space, you can attack someone on the left side of the board, but you really don't want to be spending an action to then attack again. You would rather just sit in the middle and get 2 attacks regardless of where your opponent goes. So yeah, that one kind of a dud for Bullseye, whereas the other 2 are very good for him. So Hell's Kitchen, again, like the Raft, I think is very good because of the presence of items and how they allow Bullseye to do things that he either doesn't have access to or really wants to do even more than he already does. T-Rex Paddock, this is the newest map in the game. I don't have a ton of experience. Actually, I've only played on it with like T-Rex and Sattler. I haven't played Bullseye on this map, but these are the 2 spaces. You cannot attack the enemy hero first action, first turn, because it's actually over here in this spot. The A is covering it. That reminds me of, if you remember the animated movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. At the beginning, they're like we live in a tiny town on an island covered by the A in Atlantic. That's like in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, but on maps it's like under the A. That movie is full of just clever dialogue like that. So basically, on T-Rex Paddock, the second player spot is covered by the A in Paddock. I just think that's funny. And you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces away at the beginning. So just like the Raft, even if you maneuver, you're still 6 spaces away, which is not good for early game aggression. You'll be forced to double maneuver or maneuver boost, and then your opponent will have a chance to get to 7 cards. So you'll take advantage of bad shuffles, bad draws a little less frequently, but there still are 2 ultimate infinite range spots here where you can attack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can attack everywhere in that loop. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just checking my work here because I haven't really played on this map a lot. And from this space, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Attack everywhere in here, attack everywhere down there. So yeah, there's 2 ultimate spots in the middle, but that does mean, because of like the weird dimensions of this map, your opponent's probably just going to pressure you, and because the map, like the edges are pretty close to the middle, they probably won't even have to boost a lot of the time, especially if they have movement effects on some of their block cards. Whoops, I accidentally scrolled with my mouse. So basically, T-Rex Paddock, I'm going to say it looks good on paper, but probably isn't as good as it could be, just because I'm making that gut call because of how like tight it is. It's kind of like Raptor Paddock, but there's less good spaces for you, and because it's so tight, your opponent will have an easier time catching you, but it's not tight enough where you can attack immediately at the start of the game. So overall, probably not one of Bullseye's best maps. And lastly, we're going to talk about Heorot. This is the most problematic map to analyze because the size changes when the doors close, because they cut off zones and movement. So we're going to analyze all the possible like board states that the doors could be in. So right away, it actually seems like a really good map for Bullseye because you can attack player 2, first action, first turn, and there's a plethora of spots where you can hit every space on the board. The problem is when the doors start closing, that's when your range starts diminishing, and especially against characters with sidekicks, any number, they'll have an easier time closing multiple doors at once, and I'd say when 2 doors are closed, you're in a bit of a pickle, especially since you probably will only be able to open 1 a turn unless you're boosting your movement. And if your opponent is constantly able to close 1 or 2 doors every game, or every turn, I should say, they're going to close them at a faster rate than you can open them, which is not going to be great for you. So when all the doors are open, it's a really good Bullseye map. When 1 side door is closed, you can see just a bunch of spaces just disappeared. You have to basically be in one of these 2 spots. I'm assuming your opponent is going to be like behind the door if they just closed it. And you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, attack them everywhere on this side, and 1, 2, 3, 4, attack them everywhere on this side, and these spaces can also hit everywhere in these upper echelons. If the front door is closed, you actually can't hit every spot on the map from any spot. There's no infinite range spots. The best spot is the player 1 spot, where you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around here and still hit everything back here. But the problem is, if they close the front door, they're probably behind it, and then if you're in this spot, you can't actually hit them, and now there's a loop like on Yukon or Sherwood. This loop is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's just like the Sherwood loop, where you can maneuver and attack them, but then your opponent can maneuver to like the opposite side of the loop, and now you'll have to maneuver again to hit them. So this is problematic. This is like not great. If your opponent closes the front door, leaves the side door open, sure, you can get closer to them, but then they'll just keep running away. So you're already not looking too great here. Now, if the front door and a side door are closed, you're in a little bit of a pickle, because now like a whole corner of the board will kind of be like off limits to you. I think the best case scenario here for you to do from this spot, which is the most ideal spot, is maneuver, open the door, and now you can hit 1, 2, 3, 4. You can hit all these spaces. But now you're in the same problem where the front door is closed. If you're here, they can maneuver. They can just move one space here, and then the cycle of violence against you continues. I will also mention this map is symmetrical, so this placement still works even if this door is closed and the bottom one is open. Just the X's flip sides. I hope that makes sense to everyone. And when both side doors are closed, this is like a really weird game state. You basically will be in one of these two spots, because again, this is symmetrical. So if you're in this spot, you can't hit outside that door. If you're in this spot, you can't hit outside that door, which is fine, I guess, because like if your opponent is like, if Achilles is here and Pat is here, you just maneuver to the space where you want to attack the fighter on that side, and then you attack them. And you don't care if you can't attack the other fighter because he's all the way on the other side, or like you don't care because you don't care. And the one you want to attack will have to maneuver around to the other side of the board if you actually want to hit them. So this is like a weird game state, and it's like not super bad for you. Probably will only come up if your opponent has a sidekicker. And the worst game state is when all three doors are closed, because now this, like outside the house, has now become a big loop for you, and you'll have to like chase your opponent around it. If they're running around the house, you don't really care about hitting the inside, but then your opponent can do something like this, where if you maneuver over here into this corner, because you've been chasing them, let's say you maneuvered here, attack them on one turn, they moved away, you maneuvered here, attack them on a different turn. If they run inside the house, now if you're like this deep outside the front door, you'll probably have to maneuver boost and just open the front door in order to hit them, unless you want to go around. But you could also just maneuver and like open a door while you're going by, probably with a boost. But so again, this map is all right for Bullseye at the beginning of the game, but as the doors close, it gets progressively worse for him. It gets harder for him to execute his game plan, and especially if your opponent has sidekicks, you're not really going to have a fun time unless you can kill them all quickly. But then you're killing the sidekicks and not the hero, so your opponent's game clock is increasing in length, because now they'll have more time to kill you because you're expending less resources into actually killing their hero. So this map, not great for Bullseye, solely because he's a move to single solo hero, and maybe if he had a sidekick, like it'd be a little bit easier, but he doesn't have a sidekick because he doesn't need anyone, because he's the best by himself, and I love him for that. He's a strong, independent man, gremlin, menace thing. So overall, if we're looking at all the maps, I think there are 14 in the game right now. This is kind of like a little Venn diagram. You have in this column maps with infinite range spots, where there's a spot on the board where you can hit everything. And in this column, maps where there is no infinite range spot and there's a number of safe spots on the map for your opponent based on where you're positioned. And in this row, these are the maps where the first player and second player starting positions are close enough where you can attack first action, first turn without having to maneuver. And then in this row, the maps where you cannot attack immediately. So basically, if a map is in this corner, that means there are infinite range spots and you can attack immediately, which means if you have map and position pick, these maps are very good for you to pick. Of course, Heorot is in here because based on the game state with the doors, there will be infinite range spots, but it's also here because depending on the boards, there will be a number of spaces that are safe for your opponent. So yes, Heorot is technically in this category, but it's also technically in this category. So I would say Raptor Paddock, Sunnydale, and Hanging Gardens, the three best Bullseye maps based on these restrictions. The cannot attack immediately maps, but still infinite range spots are also decent maps. That's why they're closer to green than they are to red. It just means that you'll have to maneuver on your first action. You'll be slightly less explosive or aggressive out of the gate, but still, like on Marmoreal and Hell's Kitchen, you just maneuver and then attack them with like an I Never Miss boosted up to a 6. That's still really good. It just means like you can't momentous stay immediately on your first action, which probably on these maps would be a really good opener. And the Raft and T-Rex Paddock, they're 8 away, so you're going to have to maneuver boost if you want to hit them on your first turn, which is slightly less ideal, but like with the items on the Raft, you can probably just maneuver in and claim the one you want to play right away. In T-Rex Paddock, you just maneuver to a central positioning and you get ready to unleash at the start of turn 2. So these maps, while slightly less ideal than these, if there are other features, maybe like the items on the Marvel map that you want to utilize that these maps don't have, they might also be a decent pick. I think probably T-Rex Paddock is the worst one of this group. I think the Raft, probably the best one of this group. Whereas in here, like I said earlier, I really like Raptor Paddock and Hanging Gardens for my Bullseye. So I think those are probably the 4 most ideal maps, although Marmoreal isn't too shabby as well. I would actually avoid Heorot despite the advantages you have at the beginning of the game. The maps where you have opposing safe spots, Sarpedon, Sherwood, Yukon, Heorot when the doors close, and Baskerville, I would avoid all of these if you can, except Sarpedon. Sarpedon is probably the less bad of these because, like I said, based on if your opponent is on land or on the boat, you just shift to that side of the central loop, and then if they want to get away from you, they have to maneuver boost all the way to the other side of the map, and that's just like not really a practical thing to do. So I think more often than not, Sarpedon is going to be kind of like a quote-unquote infinite range spot, and being able to attack immediately is fine, except the other 4 maps in here I would avoid. And the maps where there are safe spots and you can't even attack them right away are SoHo and the Bronze, but there's only one safe spot on these maps based on the ideal positioning I highlighted, whereas some of these maps have 2 and 3. So even though you can't attack immediately, there's still like less potential safe spots based on my ideal positioning. So I don't even think these are that bad. I would rather play on SoHo and the Bronze than Sherwood, Yukon, or Baskerville, if that has any indication. Maybe I'll change the highlighting in post, but like I'm not really going to do that. Just saying, these are not as bad as they look despite the deep red color I gave them. That's just so that the Venn diagram color coding made a little bit more sense. So overall, if you were going to ask me, Baked, you soggy old cow, you menace, you absolute buffoon, you gremlin, you horrible okay, well first I'd say most of those titles were warranted. If you were going to say, Baked Goods, what is the best Bullseye map? I would probably say Raptor Paddock, with Hanging Gardens as a honorable mention, and probably Marmoreal in the Marvel maps rounding out the top 5. If you were going to ask me what the worst Bullseye maps were, I would say Heorot, depending on the matchup, and then also probably Sherwood and Yukon. So I hope this map analysis video has been useful for you. As you can see, the final thoughts meme is the count, because when you're Bullseye, there's a lot of counting to 5. Oh man, that's a good one. I'll admit, I make myself chuckle with most of the final thoughts memes, but I think this one like might be my favorite just because I'm so attached to the character, and it's just funny. It's like 5 spaces. So if you have been clamoring in the comments for more map related videos, I know I get a bunch of comments saying like analyze the maps. It's a lot of work, as you can see from this video, but it's a lot of fun when I guess I looked at it through the lens of my favorite character, Bullseye, and hopefully when I take a more generalist approach to the map strategy guides, they're similar in, I guess, quality to this one, and hopefully they're educational. I think something that passed through my mind when I was like making the graphics for these videos was, wait a second, I want to play Bullseye competitively. This video is basically just making a guide for people to like play around him. I'm highlighting the safe spots on the map based on where I'm going to be positioning. Like, why am I doing this? And then I remembered it's for the greater good. It's technically just public knowledge. You could just bust out your maps with your sets at home and just count all of the spaces. I'm just consolidating it in one place. And I guess it's helpful for the other aspiring Bullseye mains, like Chadicular. He's probably going to love this video. I know he did something similar in his latter Season 3 reveal video. He highlighted maps where Bullseye could hit everything, and that's why that kind of like inspired me to make this video. I was like, oh, that's a really good idea, Chad. Let me expand on that more. And I think one of the reasons that Bullseye is really good this season, in Season 3 of Ladder, is because the maps are Heorot, which is not good, the Bronze, which is alright, both Marvel maps, the Raft and Hell's Kitchen, which are really good for him, and Hanging Gardens. So there's just like 3.5 really good maps for him, and if you have map pick, you probably pick the one that's best for the matchup. And if you have position pick, you're really excited about that because then you're going first. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're just going to play on a random map, about half the maps are like super good for you. So you probably want position pick more than map pick if they're split. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on maps and Bullseye. If you have any different experiences with this character on specific maps, maybe things that I got wrong, maybe you think that T-Rex Paddock is the best Bullseye map in the game, please leave a comment and let me know, because I'd love to hear other perspectives on this topic. Like I said, I am baked goods of YouTube fame coming to you live, the Bullseye main. It's just a stupid rhyme I thought of. I love Bullseye. This is my favorite character in the game. It will probably be for a long time. I know Houdini might surpass him, but probably not, just because I love the personality that this hero provides me with. It allows me to embrace my inner gremlin and just be a menace. Attack you a bunch, draw a bunch of cards, win a bunch of combats, make you cry because you didn't draw any feints. So yeah, I hope you could tell I thoroughly enjoyed making this video, and now I'm even more motivated to make the rest of the map videos. In terms of other future videos, the Jurassic Park 2 First Impressions video for both Dr. Sattler and the T-Rex will probably be up later this week. I need to get a bunch of games in, so if you would like to test Jurassic Park 2, message me on Discord and we can definitely get some games going. The Yanenga and Bloody Mary strategy guides, they've been in the works for a while. I just haven't really had a lot of time to just sit down and crank them out. Hopefully those will be out by next week. And like I said, going forward, map guide probably by the end of June. And if you have any other videos you'd like to see, let me know. The rest of Battle of Legends Volume 2 will be out sometime later this summer, and hopefully I can get a bunch of content out before the next major tournament starts. And speaking of which, I will eventually go back and make videos for the rest of my Winter of Champions journey. I kind of just got burnt out for making gameplay videos for a while because it's just a lot of work. I'll revisit that with probably tweaks to how I make those videos, and I want to show off some great games I had with Micah, Caesar, and Lemonhurst, because they are all great opponents, and I think it'd be really interesting to show off and commentate on my own past gameplay, especially now that I've forgotten generally how those games will go. It'll be even more of a surprise for me, and I'll probably make less call-outs based on memory. Also, one last thing that if you're listening this far, you probably know this already, but I'll just say it again. I'm going to start streaming on Twitch this week, which is super exciting for me. Not sure how it's going to go because I'm kind of on like an old laptop, and it's going to be an adventure, all right? So I'm going to stream probably Wednesday. This video is going out on Monday. Wednesday night, I have my Team League match against Tave Tendo. I'll be playing the Raptors, my other favorite Menace characters, versus his Sinbad on Heorot. I'm looking to stream that, so just come on in. Drop me a follow. There'll be a link in the description below for my Twitch channel. Drop me a follow, even though I haven't streamed yet, and you'll know when I go live, whenever that happens. So, yeah, this has been a nice long-winded, like, personal chat. I might start doing these a little bit more often at the end of my videos, just like being really candid, just talking about like what's going on, my plans, being a little unfocused. I just, some people might say I like the sound of my own voice. The other thing is I just like having conversations and discussions about this game, and I just like talking to people. I love reading and responding to comments. I had a conversation with, I think his name is Daniel today, there's like one YouTube short I have of like a custom "that was easy" button me and my friends made with just a bunch of degenerate sounds on it, and there's a copy of Root in my backpack in that video. And so someone commented, his name is Danny Teoharov. We just had a conversation about our favorite board games, and that was awesome. I love that. So hopefully that's more of the kind of like me to viewer experience I'll get from Twitch, because I actually love interacting with people in Twitch chat, especially when I'm in like Zero or Dark Blade or Prospero or Freak streams. I just love chatting with people live, talking about the game. And hopefully when I'm the one streaming, I'll have that same awesome experience in Twitch chat myself. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with me. I am going, I say home in air quotes. I live in Connecticut now, but I'm going back to my family's house in Chicago for 3 weeks tomorrow. So I'll be there for a while. I'll visit Zero Skater because he lives in Illinois and we live close enough to drive to each other. We'll play some games and I'll just grind some videos while I'm on like vacation, quote unquote. So yeah, that's what's going on with me. Baked goods, the menace, the gremlin, the bullseye main. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, comment some. Let's see. Comment some starch. No, that's stupid. Just comment a fruit or something that we normally do. That's so funny when I see all the fruit emojis of the people that actually stuck it out to the end of the video. That's the real troopers. Okay, so comment a fruit emoji if you've made it this far. Throw a bullseye hitting a dart emoji if you're a menace like me. And have an excellent day. So as always, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, and yay!